Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nasia Safdar from Infectious Diseases. I'm the faculty lead for this clinical trials community of practice sessions that we've been holding. Today, we are delighted to welcome two amazing speakers. First is Dr. Leigh Mrotek, who is ICTR's research navigator and a trained neuroscientist who manages ICTR's research and protocol development program, or RAPID. In this role, she assists investigators in planning their research studies and preparing their regulatory documents with a focus on protocols. And since today's session is going to be on multi-site resources, I think this will be highly pertinent because we're thinking about people who are submitting or writing protocols where UW is the prime site, but they need a network of other sites to be able to execute their trials. Before joining ICTR, Dr. Mrotek was a professor and chair in the kinesiology department at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, where she led the motor control laboratory. Her research focused on the speed at which we adjust our eye and hand movements to respond to environmental changes, highlighting how our ability to navigate the world depends on quickly and accurately adapting to unexpected changes, like a football defender responding to a receiver or adjusting one's gait in a crowded hallway. Dr. Mrotek has experience being PI on multiple NIH and NSF grants related to the control and learning of motor behaviors and altering movements to match the environment. Our second speaker, Dr. Jen Merems, is a seasoned scientific editor with over 8 years of experience supporting academic research. She specializes in editing and refining manuscripts, grant proposals, research protocols, posters, presentations, and digital and print media. Driven by a passion for advancing science, Dr. Merems collaborates with diverse research teams to amplify the impact of their work through clear and compelling storytelling. Dedicated to enhancing participant diversity in clinical trials, she focuses on fostering inclusion, accessibility, and broad dissemination of research. She's a graduate of the University of Arizona, the University of Idaho, and the University of Wisconsin with a PhD. We are delighted to welcome our speakers today. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I will turn it over to you, Leigh.
Great, thank you for the invitation. So we would like to start with a very short, single question poll this afternoon to just sort of gauge everybody's knowledge about ICTR, basic knowledge. So if you could just answer, that would be great. I guess I used the correct analogy in my bio with the Super Bowl coming this weekend, the defender adjusting to the ball. So timely, luckily that was timely, but not entirely planned.
Can you see the screen okay, Leanne?
I can see, yeah, the screen looks good, Jen. Super. So, fantastic. So we have a group today that has mostly used ICTR services. Many of you have used ICTR services. So I'm guessing that this will be a little bit of a review for you and a little bit of some introductory material. There are also a few of you out there that have not used ICTR services, nor do you know what ICTR is. So I will begin with one little slide on a little information about ICTR for you to review. If at the end of this talk you still don't have any idea what ICTR is, please feel free to reach out and contact us. We'd be happy to talk about ICTR and our services and our funding mechanisms and all of the wonderful things that happen in this department. Generally speaking, what we do in ICTR is we help researchers find the assistance that they need via services or some pilot funding. And we specifically focus on researchers who have clinical and or translational research goals. So next slide. Investigators can often get frustrated with the research processes on campus. It can sometimes seem like it's a maze to complete the tasks, including trying to submit a grant or submitting an IRB, or even just after that's finished, even just getting started on a project. So sometimes investigators don't know how to move through this maze. And there are lots of departments, especially in SMPH, that have research support experts who can help. And sometimes even they're even overloaded and it would be great if there was something else. It can be a real comfort to know that there might be some assistance out there to point you in the right direction or get you started down some of the right paths when you're a little bit at a loss. Next slide. Sometimes investigators do know the groups that can help them get started with their research, but the groups sometimes don't communicate with each other. These siloed service groups within the schools, within the university, and sometimes even within ICTR can make it so that it's confusing to know who to talk to and when to talk to the various groups and what broad topics to broach with each one of those groups. In the past, investigators may have asked the wrong group and then stopped asking questions because they didn't get the help that they needed, or they may have even just not known who to ask. So it can be, again, very confusing. Next slide. Sometimes investigators may request help in the wrong order. So if investigators aren't able to share all of their questions to an individual service group or in a single consultation meeting, they might travel this circuitous route to a grant submission or a protocol submission. And this can really delay study startup, or it can result in mistakes that can become troublesome down the line and cause delays or other kinds of issues. Next slide. Within ICTR, we have many service groups who assist researchers in different ways. We can help from the time of developing one's line of research all the way through study execution, and for more than one studies as well. Sometimes investigators don't realize all the ways that ICTR can help them. We can help from pilot funding to team building to training and writing assistance. We can help people learn how to engage the community and engage in study planning. And now ICTR services are even working together in a more fluid manner. ICTR has started a collaborative network, and in this group of ICTR colleagues who get together regularly to discuss investigator needs, we can find ways to help those investigators efficiently. Next slide. For example, if we take 3 of ICTR's groups in this network, the Recruitment and Retention Resource Center at the top, the Collaborative Center for Health Equity in the middle, and the Research and Protocol Development Program at the bottom, and we have them work together to help investigators, we can do that. We can become a more full service investigator assistance group. We can be the link to the experts that investigators need to talk to in order to facilitate progress on their research studies. And we are doing this currently. For experts working with us, this reduces the amount of requests that they receive, the number of times they are contacted, and the number of times they're contacted for the wrong reason. For investigators, this reduces the time spent writing requests, replying to emails, making plans, and searching on websites for just the right help or just the right answer. Overall, this can be a reduction in anxiety, knowing that there are others out there thinking about an investigator's project and the plans to move it forward. Next slide. With the services in ICTR working together, we can help to fill some of the gaps that investigators fall into. So these are our goals and objectives. And to sort of speak outside those specific words that are on there, our main goal is to provide inclusive care so that investigators are less confused about moving through the research process and the ways that ICTR can help them. In doing this, we also hope to improve efficiency timelines. Next slide. ICTR doesn't have a single method to assist investigators. We meet investigators where they are, and we help them with what they need when they need it. Investigators can come to us at any stage of their project, from inception through execution. Although we tend to focus our services on the assistance we provide during the planning stages, you might be able to imagine that some of our assistance can help investigative teams if they are struggling during nearly any phase of a study. So if we want, we can sort of go through this mechanism, knowing that even if an investigator comes to us, we don't start at the beginning and work our way through no matter what. We talk to the individual investigator and we try to find out what it is they need from us. So if an investigator comes to us early in the process, or early in their career, we may brainstorm with them about possible research questions, general interests, their plan for a line of research. We might try to help them consider their field of interest and what sort of collaborations or future publication capabilities would exist for them. There might be special interest groups that they want to be involved in, and this would allow the investigator to conceptualize the whole research plan. Even in this stage, others may come to us with a specific aim statement or a short paragraph about what they want to do, in which case we can start to outline the project that they're proposing and think about all the needs that the investigator has for the project. Next slide. Then we can move on to the next stage, or an investigator can come to us with the project already outlined and ideas on what they might need for assistance. In this stage, we will look at the needs, we perform this needs assessment, and we can talk about the plan, where the investigator might need help. What are they looking for? What are the sticking points in their plan, or where are the confusion points? And at this point, we can begin to talk to the experts that we have in our group. Next slide. Our ICTR collaborative network has contacts in a fairly large number of expertise areas. This is a partial list on this slide, and it's still quite a large set of areas. So if you are an investigator that's building a team to submit a grant or work on a large project, we might contact someone like Whitney in Team Science. And the Team Science Collaboration Planning Service is a great help to a lot of teams. In this situation, teams get a chance to discuss organization, logistics, the responsibilities of the people who are in the study team, as well as plans for the project and the methods that they might use, and ways to work out future possible disagreements if there are any. An investigator might need to communicate with bioinformatics, which houses chi-squared and CURDS, to see if the population that they want to study exists or exists in an easy way for us to find. One might need to communicate with some of our experts in community engagement, such as SEACHI, our Marshfield experts, the Wisconsin Network for Research Support, the Wisconsin Research and Education Network, to try to find if the population of interest, to try to find ways to reach out to that population of interest. There are lots of recruitment methods that can be considered for all sorts of various projects. And we ask our colleagues in the Recruitment and Retention Resource Center to guide you, the investigator, to the expert advice from some of these aforementioned groups. An investigator might need a biostatistician and they don't have access to one. We can work with BIRD to discuss methods for analyzing data and broader study planning, how to collect data, how to organize the data, how to save the data. Our biostatisticians can help with many of these kinds of questions. An investigator might have questions about the regulatory processes and need to consult the IRB or the Scientific Review Board or the Drug and Device Regulatory Assistance Consultation Service. All of these can be contacted and asked for assistance. We also like to keep the regulatory and study startup experts from within each department aware of where a study is in the planning phases when we're working with investigators. Next slide. Actually, before I start talking about the next thing, does anybody have any questions about that list of experts? Was there something on there that you didn't know what it was? Maybe you'd like a little explanation. You can put something in the chat, which I will open, or you could just raise your hand. I am not seeing anything. So yeah, I guess I will just continue to move on. Of course, now I can't see the slide. Sorry, I just need a little break here. Okay. My mouse was not working properly. Okay, so since you seem to have a pretty good idea of what a lot of those expert groups are, but maybe you don't know when to reach out to them or how to get them to work with you, we can talk about the next stage, which is synthesis. In this stage, you might have already conversed with a few single expert groups, or we may have not reached out to them yet. But in this stage, we try to integrate the suggestions from the various expert groups. Sometimes this can be done by talking with the investigative team. A few of our navigators can play a role, but in times when there are complicated projects, we might discover that we need to consult with multiple experts at one time in what we term a design studio. Just as an aside, an investigator can come to us in this stage too if they already know they need help, especially if they know they need help from multiple experts at the same time, or they know that the advice of various people may result in changes in decisions. We can help coordinate that meeting or those sets of conversations and the communication related to that. Next slide. Design, so I was talking about design studios. Design studios typically occur when a study has somewhat more complicated issues, or when solving one issue depends on a decision in another area, or it appears that multiple expert groups or multiple suggestions can contribute to a single issue. So typically before a design studio, we communicate with everybody involved in the meeting. And we try to provide questions that the investigator might have for the various experts related to each individual expert's area of expertise. We also like to try to provide a protocol or some sort of draft of a protocol. If that doesn't exist, or if we're in a different part of study planning, we can provide some section of a grant document or a specific aims page, or again, just a well thought out short document to provide background about the study so that people aren't coming into the meeting without any information at all. During the studio, the investigator will start with a short presentation on the project and ask sort of reminder questions to the experts. The studio experts can then ask questions and provide advice. And the best part about these studio meetings is that the experts can talk with each other to make sure that the overall group's advice is consistent and thorough. After the studio is complete, the experts can provide final recommendations, and that is either in writing or at the end of the meeting. And if the group wants to continue communicating, we can do that via email or schedule further studio meetings. Feedback from the studios has been very positive. We had a studio meeting for Dr. Ramasachana and her R01 submission to the NIH. And we had Amy Fillett and Susan Passmore from Just Research and Sichi, and Guanha Chen from Bird in the studio. Dr. Chana indicated that she had a lot of moving pieces in the time before the studio, and she actually continues to have a lot of moving pieces with this project. And she thought that the discussion during the studio brought everyone together and really helped her figure out how to frame her R01 grant. She was really happy with the assistance, and it allowed to submit her grant on time, and she successfully received funding. Dr. Margaret Jorgensen had a studio meeting for her IRB submission, and this studio included Stephanie Metzger from the IRB, Jake Rome, who was representing the FDA regulatory program, and Amy Redemel from also from the FDA oversight group. Dr. Jorgensen told us that it was really helpful to have the external navigator in the meeting. She indicated that the navigator basically translated information from one group to her, so that and I was the navigator in that meeting. I spent a lot of the time of the meeting translating terminology and rephrasing statements so that the communication between the parties was successful. The advice that the experts were giving was very consistent, and so that really helped to change how she completed the IRB submission. Next slide. We also received positive feedback from the experts who attended these design studio meetings. Dr. Chen indicated that he really appreciated the a priori communication so that he was prepared for the studio meeting, that he knew the agenda, he knew what he was going to be asked, and that really made a difference for him. Jake Rome also commented that the process was very efficient, that it resulted in a lot less back and forth prior to the meeting, and I hope after the meeting as well. Dr. Passmore found that the studio meeting was a helpful mechanism to contribute to investigator proposals and protocols. During the studio that Dr. Passmore was involved in, there were lots of points where the studio experts were providing conflicting advice. So one person would say, well, you should really do this. And then one of the other studio experts would say, no, that's not going to work for this other part of the grant. And she really thought that if the experts were not together in the same meeting, that this may have taken a really, really long time to be resolved. So, but instead, because they were all together in one place, the issues were resolved immediately and there was a lot less frustration. Next slide. After communicating with experts and or having a studio meeting, so in communicating with experts individually or together, the navigator can help an investigator review that information, study the feedback from the experts, and begin working that information into the document that they're trying to work on, the protocol or the grant or whatever. As an aside, and I said this before, but I'll say it again, sometimes researchers reach out to us for the first time at this stage when they already have a draft of a protocol and they feel really good, say, about their biostatistics section, or they feel really good about their methods or their study calendar, and they ask for us to look at, you know, is this document consistent throughout from an outside reader, or they ask maybe for help with adverse events, or that sort of thing. So this is also a fine time to reach out, and especially if you're looking for somebody who hasn't yet read your document, and may be able to give you an outside opinion. And then it's time to go back and make more changes in the document. And this is a really great time to work with the scientific editor. So I'm going to pass the proverbial baton to Jen at this point.
Great, thanks. So yes, I'm the scientific editor, as Leanne just mentioned, and as Nasia mentioned in the beginning. So I do work very closely with the investigators that Leanne works with the RAPID program. So when they finish, getting their protocol or their grant ready, it's sent to me. Like Leanne has mentioned many times, sometimes people just come straight to me with their grant or their manuscript without working with the RAPID program to sort of build up their protocol or grant from scratch. So we're here through all stages of the process, essentially. So just a little bit about scientific editing. My goal is to help strengthen your materials. I provide customized development and structural edits to help meet the investigator's needs. So I come at your document from sort of a reviewer's perspective. I have a lot of knowledge about a lot of things, but I'm not the expert. That is the investigator's job. So I'm here looking for holes in the knowledge, any gaps that I see. I'm trying to give you the best product you can when you go to submit it to the IRB or to the granting agencies that you're submitting for, or any journals for that manuscript. So I can do things like correct errors, improve structure, organization, and flow. But I really like the storytelling aspect. I want to make sure you're coming in with a strong hook to get the attention of the readers, and to just make sure everything that you are trying to say comes across in the manner that you want it to, because we know these protocols, have to be done in a very specific way. So it's important that, the language is there and it's strong. So I can help, do a lot of different things based on what the investigators need. And I have, different services to do so. And I also make fun memes if you need a good meme. So going back to a little bit of feedback that we had from an early investigator, Gina Green Harris, she had a protocol with us and she used primarily the scientific editing aspect of it. And she thought that the feedback was very useful in providing clarity and writing in her current document and helping her prepare for future documents. So for her dissertation and future manuscripts and such. And since working with her originally, we've worked with her a few times since then. So once you have your document that has been worked on at whatever stage you entered, the RAPID program, you've reached out to ICTR, we've helped you, you have these final edits, you then just get to submit. So whether that's to the IRB, the FDA, the NIH, whatever granting agency it might be, or a manuscript, you submit and we're not done with you if you don't want us to be. We're here to help. So when you get any feedback, whether it's from the IRB or you get your scores back from an NIH grant, we're here to help review that feedback if you want it. We're here to help you reach back out to any experts that you might need. If you need to do a mock review, we can help you do that. We just want to help you then resubmit with the best product. So reach out to us at any stage. Even if you haven't worked with us and you just have that resubmission, you can come to us and we can help you from there as well. So just a testimonial from Dr. Melissa Carrasco, I apologize, McCall. She has worked with us a few times, and she indicated that the services of ICTR's collaborative network saved over 4 months of effort that she otherwise would have needed to complete her protocol and IRB application. And she's grateful for the time and expertise of this group. So again, she worked with us asking questions, and then we came together as different services within ICTR to sort of talk about what she needs, what experts would be useful for her, and then took all of that brain power within that network back to her and really improved that efficiency of getting her work off the ground, getting that IRB submitted. So quickly, in summary about our collaborative network, we're a wraparound service that engages many of ICTR services. So instead of ICTR being a silo of different services, we're here to sort of reach into all of those different groups and pull out the resources that an investigator might need. We use this shared knowledge to help increase efficiency of the study startups or grant submissions that investigators are working on. And by combining these ICTR services and the expert networks outside of ICTR, we can increase the ability to communicate the needs of our investigators. So we're always looking to increase this network that we have, the services across campus. So if you know of any great services, we're all ears. We would love to add that to our list and grow our network that we have. So currently this is just 3 groups that are mainly in our collaborative network. We have a few that are entering as well. So we're here for any ideas. Like I said, if you have any services we should include on our list. But what I want to do now is to show you, we do have a new ICTR website, which is very exciting. If you haven't seen it yet, I just wanted to share with you what it looks like in case you did want to reach out to us. Did you get the screen switching? Do you see the website now? Yes, okay, I saw Leanne respond. So if you haven't seen this, this is our new website, which is really great. There's a lot on here. And again, ICTR has a lot of services and a lot of programs. So there's 2 main points I want to show you. So if you're just looking and you want to see what services we have, you can scroll down to research services. You can click on it. You can filter by many different things that you're looking for: community engagement, multi-site research, scientific editing, lots of different ways to find something if you're not sure what you're looking for. If you know exactly who you're looking for, you can scroll down to whatever it might be. So let's say we'll go to one of mine, scientific editing services. You can click on it. It talks all about it. You can click request free consult and it will take you to our consultation form. This is the same thing with the RAPID program or any of the services or programs ICTR has. If you're not sure where to go and you see something that says, we're here to help, contact our navigator, if you click on that, it will send you an email to the, I think it still says protocol development at ICTR, but that's our rapid program. So you're going to go straight to our navigator. So Leanne and a couple other individuals who have access to that email address, you'll go straight to them and you can ask them any question you want. So if you can't find what you're looking for on our website, whether it's through these services or through the programs, just find, this is on many different pages, we're here to help. Click on contact our navigator and that will get you directly to this network that we're building of the navigators that we have. But if you have a few minutes, take some time, check out our website, see what services and programs that we offer. It's much more comprehensive than the small list that Leanne showed. This is primarily just what ICTR offers, not the outside connections that we do have, but we also have things like events, trainings, funding opportunities, all sorts of really great opportunities for investigators in here. So if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. Are there any questions about the website before I switch back to the presentation? I see some comments in chat. See if those are related to the website. Otherwise, we'll get to them. I see Leanne's already responding to them. Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, so we're back to the presentation. So that is basically it for us describing ICTR. I just wanted to highlight a conference series that we're putting on this spring. So it's called The Short and the Sweet, Your Next Conference. If you're interested in learning how to better develop your presentations, your abstracts, posters, that one is past, but it's recorded. This would be a really great series for you, or if you know of anybody, you can pass that information along. Just an hour long. The next one is this Friday. So February 7th, we're going to talk about how to design presentations for success. You should join, otherwise they're recorded and you can view them later. You can either find the registration on our website or you can look at this QR code and it will take you straight to the registration. And then just a reminder for your next month's seminar, you have Dr. Jessica Cook from the UW Center for Tobacco Research and Intervention. She'll be here with you on March 5th at noon. And with that, Leanne and I are happy to take any questions that you guys have.
Thank you both. I see some of the questions have already been responded to in chat, but people should feel free to unmute themselves and ask their question. I see one from Jessie K about, are all consultation services free or are fee structures posted? And I see a response there.
Yep. Yeah, actually, I'd be happy to talk a little bit about that. Many of the services that ICTR has are at least free for consult, and several of them, so for example, the Research and Protocol Development Program, the Scientific Editing, our Recruitment and Retention Resource Center are all available without fee. Some of the groups will request, if they're going to have ongoing service with you, to be written into your grant, for example. So our biostatisticians at Byrd would request that. And then there are some that do have a cost. So I think in my list, the Survey Center was listed. They will consult with you for free, but then later, if you actually work with them, there'll be a fee. The Red Cap assistance is, I believe it's an hourly fee schedule. So after a consult, so all of those will definitely speak to you about that. And if you're working with us, we can tell you if a certain group is going to have a fee or not. Another question that's here is, for the studio design meetings, how difficult is it to have a meeting that has many experts? I guess I typically wouldn't, it depends on your definition of many. So a meeting with more than 4 or 5 total people, so it depends how many people are there from the investigative team and how many experts are there, is sort of difficult to construct and to run. So sometimes it takes a little bit of time to schedule those meetings out. But that's one of the benefits of working with us prior to needing a studio meeting, is we can sort of see if it's coming and we can start to schedule that studio meeting farther out and continue to work on things as we move forward to the time of that meeting. Okay, so the next question is, sorry, next question
a big
is long.
one.
Could you provide an overview of the ideal relationship or order of operations between the IRB submission and utilizing the ICTR DMC services? Which body should we engage first or concurrently, and how much advanced notice should one party have? And noting protocol templates by the IRB and ICTR. Okay, let me actually start with the protocol templates. So sometimes people will come to us and they will already have started a protocol in various templates. So they might use the IRB template, they might use the ICTR template, or they might use some other template, maybe that they've gotten from a previous university or a private funder or something like that. We will work with any template. What I tend to tell people is that I really like the ICTR template. Even if you don't use it, I like people to review it because it will offer some suggested language. So not a lot of templates that I've seen other people use have suggested language, but this one does. And I will say that I think that it's really awesome language, and this is coming from a person who did not write that template. So they had a committee who worked together to pull together some of that language, and it definitely can help frame the mind of the investigator, because sometimes investigators will say, there's a section of the template and I don't have any idea at all what I am supposed to put in this section. But even if there's language from another area or another type of research, you can go, oh, I can see now how my research would fit in this sort of question. Okay, so that's the protocol templates. And sometimes it's easier. I will say for some people, it's easier to start with a protocol template, even if you end up not needing to submit a protocol with the IRB, even if you submit a the non-protocol based IRB. And finally, what was the other thing I was going to say about the protocol? Oh, it's really, really important to remember that you may not need to fill out all of the sections of any given protocol template. So remember that protocol templates are meant for research that spans the gamut, especially the ICTR template. I think the ICTR template, before you put anything into it at all, is already something like 40 pages long. But depending on the research that you're doing, you may be able to skip entire sections of that template and not have to worry about that. For example, if you're not testing a drug, there's an entire section on drug development in the IRB or in the ICTR template, and that is not, obviously that doesn't apply. I will say I do generally recommend that you at least keep the header for that section that isn't applicable, so that some of the numbering stays the same to make it easier to review, but most of the sections can just be deleted. Okay, so then the other question was, can you provide a quick overview of the ideal order of operations? I'm gonna expand on the question a little bit and say, well, sometimes it depends, and it depends on the study, the nature of the study. But in general, if you're using staff, patients, or facilities in UW Health, you need to start with UROC. UROC will be the first submission that you would make, and you need to go, use Encore to make that submission and go through CTI to do that. And that's really important. UROC is a wonderful committee that can really help the investigator frame the feasibility of the site. Thank you, Jen, for putting that link in there for UROC. There are some situations where people might want to submit to UROC and to the IRB at the same time. And generally, to me, those situations depend on the use of the scientific review committee. So that may be a discussion you would want to have with a navigator from ICTR, or the CTI UROC specialist, and or the IRB, to be able to make the determination if you're able to do both of those things at the same time. And then relative to the DMC, I definitely think that a conversation with the DMC is useful before you submit to the IRB, but you should have your protocol very well flushed out, especially your adverse events and your serious adverse events, and your study calendar, before you make any requests to the DMC. And if you absolutely know that you're going to submit, or that you need the DMC, then you should definitely reach out to them a little bit before submitting your IRB, so that you have all those ducks in a row and you're not approved by the IRB and then have to go back and submit an amendment because the DMC makes a request. We have experts here from UROC and from the DMC. So if anybody has a different suggestion, please feel free to ring in. But that, I will say that sort of timeline, order of operations discussion is one that I have quite often with investigators that are working with me sort of for the long haul of the process. So if they just come in and ask a question, we generally don't get to that. But if we're working with finding experts and working through drafts of protocols together, that is definitely a discussion we have. And we work that out early so that we can find the most efficient way to submit to these various committees and not slow investigators down. And there are, depending on the type of study that you're planning, there may be other groups that you have to work with that need extended lead time, extended contact lead time, that it takes them a while for you to get into their queue, and knowing which ones those are is very helpful. Thanks, Teresa.
Is that
I'm glad you asked
information-
that question. I probably should have thought of that and incorporated it into the talk, but maybe it works out better as a separate discussion question than in a slide.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Leanne, but I don't believe that information is written on our ICTR website, but it's something we could potentially add to the rapid programs.
It is, and it is not available on the website right now. And it has not been on there because things have been a little bit fluid over the last year. And I wanted to make sure that any information that's on that website is absolutely correct before posting it. So as things become static, we can post that kind of information, or a flow sheet, right? A step-by-step guide kind of thing. Regarding timelines for research teams, no, we don't have a guide on the website for that. Again, that can be something that can be fluid. It's also really dependent on the team and what the team has ready at any given time, and how much time a team needs to move forward with a specific document. So, these are definitely things that we can think about. But I guess the thing is, I'm just a little hesitant to do it because everything is so different from team to team that it can, I'm more afraid of giving bad advice than not having the advice up there on the website. That's my major concern.
I think one of the things that, some people have brought up that I think could be an aspirational goal for the future is some AI assistance in developing these flowcharts so that a series of questions are asked of the PI and their team, and based on what you put in, it generates, these are the committees that you need to do in this order. So some places are doing something like this already. We haven't quite arrived at that point yet. Other questions for our speakers? Thank you, Jen, for posting the resources.
Yep.
Sorry, I was just scrolling back through them. I think that there were some statements and suggestions more than questions.
Let's see, last call for other questions.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Please enjoy our upcoming workshop on Friday.
Thank
Especially
you.
send people who could use help with conference presentations.
Thank you to our speakers, and have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.